Hey everybody, we are in John chapter 11 today, and this is one of the greatest events in Jesus' life, in my opinion. I mean, really, how can you rank that? Because every person Jesus touched was a person. So I would think that every person that encountered Jesus and his love and compassion um, and miracles and all the great things, I'm sure each one would say, no, I'm the most, amazing and incredible. Because don't we feel that way when Jesus touches our life? Like it's the most incredible thing that's ever happened on the planet, not just in our lives, but ever. I hope Jesus is speaking to you in such a way that you feel that way. What a great thing to feel that way every day. Jesus has touched my life so much today, spoken to my heart so much today, filled me with love and joy and peace so much today that it's the greatest thing that's ever happened. Wow, I'd love to live life that way every day. It's a good goal to have, right? So this chapter 11 of John tells the story of Lazarus. Lazarus was a good buddy of Jesus. They were very good friends. Jesus was friends with him and his two sisters, Mary and Martha, if you've ever heard of them. So Lazarus dies, dead. And Jesus knows this. And he waits a couple of days to go to see about the whole situation. And you can tell that this sort of hurts the girls' feelings, the sisters' feelings, because even Mary said in verse 32, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. In other words, Jesus, you could have done something about this, and you didn't. But right after that, something so miraculous happens. And I just wanted to point out that little verse before we get into the miracle of Lazarus, because so many times in our lives, well, for me anyway, I know that I have said, Jesus, you could have done better there. You could have done something there, and you didn't. You know, the Bible says that his thoughts are higher than our thoughts, and his ways are higher than our ways. And, sometimes a couple of years past an event, a couple of years past a struggle, a couple of months, even a couple of days sometimes past something, we can see why it turned out the way that it did. We can see Jesus's hand on it, but it's only from the backside of what Jesus does that we can see that. When Romans talks about that he will work out all things together for our good, we want that to be right then. Right then, Jesus, right then work it out for my good. But it's not always like that, because God sees the big picture of our lives. Remember that he knew you before the foundations of the world, before he laid the foundations of this planet, the ground you walk on. Before that, he knew you. He knew your life before a single day had passed. So he knows where he wants to get you. And he knows all the things that you need along the way. And sometimes that is the purpose in the struggle. And sometimes that is the purpose in the pain. Now, some things we may not understand until we get to heaven. We just may not understand it. And I've certainly had events like that in my life. Some events I can see and I'm like, oh, I saw what you did there, Jesus. Good job, Jesus. I didn't say it in the moment, but after a while, when I could see how he worked in me and in others and how he grew us, I can say, oh, yay, Jesus, that was awesome. Look at you, Jesus. But then there are other things in my life that I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know why it turned out that way. I don't know why. My hope is that I'll grow through stuff like that. And my hope is that in my questions and in my doubts and in my saying, just like Mary did, if you had been here, this wouldn't have happened. Jesus isn't scared of you saying things like that. Just talk to him. Just talk to him about it. Lay your heart bare. That's what Mary did, because they were friends. And Jesus wants to be your friend. You can be a friend of Jesus too. So she said that, and now we're getting into the miracle territory where Jesus does do it right then. And I hope you have some great things like that in your life where Jesus does it right then. But it doesn't always happen that way. I hope that you hang on to him even when you don't understand. I hope that you hang on to him even when the plan isn't all laid out before you like a shining golden brick road, right? I hope that you still hang on to him and say, I trust you even when I don't understand you. So that's one lesson that I learned from John 11. And then also, here's what happens with the miracle. Jesus goes and he says, take me to where Lazarus is buried. So Lazarus has been in the tomb 4 days, guys. 4 days. He's dead. And he says, roll the stone aside. Martha, good old Martha, she's very practical. She's like, Lord, it's going to be stinky in there. Jesus doesn't even respond to that, but that tickles me all the same because Martha is just like that. Just like that. So Jesus looks up to heaven. We're in verse 41 now. Jesus looks up to heaven and says, Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said, Father, thank you for hearing me. So for the sake of these people standing here, so that they'll believe that you sent me. Then Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. You see that? I just figured there was like theatrics or something, right? Lazarus, come out. I can't tell you how many times I feel in my own Christian journey that I've been reawakened. I met the Lord 24 years ago. I asked him into my heart and I was saved. Period. End of discussion. I was saved. If I never did anything for Jesus, if I never, whatever, I was saved in that moment. There have also been times in my life throughout my Christian journey, which simply means following Jesus. Remember, throughout my journey of following Jesus is what I mean when I say Christian journey. I have heard him say many times, Raina, wake up. Raina, come alive. And there's such power. It's like a re-invitation. It's like a new calling for a new adventure, for a new season. I just wanted to add that in there from my own experience. But Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out. Well, that's a great sentence. The dead man came out. That's what happens when Jesus calls your name. The dead man comes out. His hands and feet bound in grave clothes. His face wrapped in a headcloth. And Jesus said, unwrap him and let him go. So you have the initial miracle. You have the initial miracle of life, of power. And again, that can be at salvation, but that can be new things every day. Every day to hear the Lord awaken your heart. Hear the Lord awaken your dreams. Hear the Lord awaken your passion for him. Come out of that grave. Come out of that place where you were sleeping. Come out of that complacency, that comfortableness that you've been in that has kept you from me, that has kept you from living for me. Lazarus, come out. Lazarus, get up. Lazarus, come alive. I hope you hear him say that to you today. And then sometimes that happens and we walk out of the grave and guess what? Still got some grave clothes on. That's such a beautiful picture to me of the process, because there are a lot of things, again, that Jesus does instantaneously. And then there are some things that's a process. If Jesus just did everything instantaneously, we would just be like, thanks, Jesus. See you tomorrow. See you next week. See you next month. See you next time I have a problem. See you next time I have an issue. See you next time I have a thing that I need your Jesus power for. And he doesn't want that. Many things in our life are a process. It's like the father teaching the kid to swim and saying, come a little deeper, come a little deeper, come a little deeper. And so Lazarus saw these grave clothes wrapped around him tight. So he was alive, but he couldn't fully live. And so he had to walk through the process and hear Jesus speak again, not just once, but again. And that's why you read your word. You hear Jesus speak to you every day. You hear Jesus speak to you today, hopefully. Then you wake up tomorrow, you read John chapter 12 tomorrow, and you hear him speak to you again. And as you do that, all those grave clothes fall off. All those things that keep you bound. His hands and feet were bound. His face was wrapped up. He couldn't see clearly. Couldn't see where he was going. He couldn't see to live. When Jesus says, unwrap him and let him go, power, freedom. Hope you hear that today too. Jesus wants to unwrap you and let you go and let you live for him. It's the whole reason he came. I love that. Hope you read through that story and really think about it. I'll talk to you tomorrow.